this something you learned? Were you born an entrepreneur?
You got to start small.
I have not allowed being a woman to hold me back.
Credibility is not just making money, it's about making sure that people trust what you're doing.
Law practice is not only about going to court, it's about advice.
It's very difficult to hire somebody who's not motivated and then make them motivated.
One of the things that I'm known for is integrity.
They have to see you as a person of integrity.
Welcome to the Executive Lounge. I'm Inshira Adam. Welcome to the Executive Lounge, the thought leadership show that brings you insights from the lives of men and women who have scaled the daunting height of either starting, managing, or growing their own business or institutions and organizations right here at home and around the world. My guest today is the Executive Director of Shekinah Clinic for the Poor and Destitute in the Northern region, and in the person of Mariama Abdulai David. You're welcome to the Executive Lounge.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Your reputation far precedes you. You've done such an awesome job, of course, with your late husband. The clinic, how long has the clinic been running?
For the past 25 years.
Wow. And how long have you been involved in the clinic?
About 15 years.
About
now.
15 years.
Yes.
So one day you ended up in this clinic. Has this been the thing you've always wanted to do with your life?
Well, yes, I would say that because in life, when you are growing up, you always have an ambition or a kind of intention you want to do. And from the humble background I came from, I think it was partly my dream.
Okay.
To do something like this.
Let's explore that background you talked about. I mean, how was it like growing up? Where did you grow up?
I was born and bred in Tamale, in an area called Chogu Hilltop. I'm from a family of 8 siblings, and I happened to be the first to be in school among my family. Mm-hmm. And I went to school by my own self at the age of 14. And my father and mother were, let me put it roughly, poor. My father was an assistant farmer, and my mother a petty trader in the Tamale market, selling tomatoes, fruits, and all kind of things. So I used to help her in the market. But I always had it as a dream to be in school. And they were never educated, and they didn't even have the means to put me in school. So every morning I will carry the tomatoes and walk around the bungalows or cottages in the Tamale area, and then also the nearby schools. So one day I said to myself that why not also be part of those children in that classroom? I went home and I told my parents about it, and they said, well, in the first place, you are a woman and you are already grown, and in the North, it's considered that a child's education is almost useless. So they couldn't even picture that it was important for me to go to school. So one day I went to the headmistress of the primary school I started with, Chogu Demonstration Primary School, and I spoke with the headmistress, Madam Zaratu. She used to buy tomatoes from me. And the teachers in the school, I used to sell tomatoes to them. And when I go out, I would stand by the window observing whatever they were teaching in the classroom. So that morning, I mustered courage and walked to her. And I said to her that I would like to be a student in this school. And she said, well, you are somewhat, you are already looking so grown in our area, but why are you not in the first place in school? And I narrated the story to her. And I said to her that, please let me strike a deal with you. You usually buy tomatoes every morning from me. Instead of paying me the money, why not anytime you buy the tomatoes, you save the money for me? So that when I manage to get some money from you, then I will be able, at that time we didn't pay school fees, even now, like what we are experiencing now or enjoying now. But I needed to buy uniform and books and other things. So I went home and told my parents about it, and they were like, no, we cannot afford to pay school fees or buy you books and other things. You are already grown. So I sat down and I thought that there was the need for me to talk with the headmistress to somewhat say she was going to take responsibility of my school. And maybe in that way, my parents will allow me to go to school. So I went to her and I said, I want you to talk to my parents that you are putting me in school for free, but I will do my best.
Our deal still stands.
Yeah, so she agreed with me, and she went to my mother in the market and spoke to her. And she was like, well, she's doing very well with me in the market. If you put her in school, who will help me sell my tomatoes again? Besides, we cannot afford to pay school fees for her. Then the mistress said, I will do that for her. So you just give her the go-ahead, and then I'll put her in school. Now, the question was about my father. My mother agreed. We came home and talked to my father. My father said, well, you are almost at the age of getting married, and you're going to go to school. And of course, his friends started polluting his mind that, you know, once she go to school, she'll become a spoiled girl. They will impregnate her. I had a lot of challenges.
Wow.
But before my parents allowed me to
But
go.
how did your father finally accept the idea that you desired to, you know, have formal education?
Well, I constantly talked to him, and they could see that I wasn't happy anymore in the house because they didn't want me to go to school. So every evening, and I happened to have been my father's, if you want, favorite. So in the night when he's in the room, I walk in quietly. Then I start to convince him that all the stories they are telling him, he already know my character. I don't think I was going to allow myself to be spoiled by men in whatever form. So one day he said to me, okay, Mariama, I want your welfare. That's why I'm saying that you should not go to school, but because I cannot afford to pay school fees. And I'm afraid that you might be spoiled by your teachers or friends in the school. But if you think that all these my fears will not be met, then why not? You can go to school. But bear in mind that I'm a poor man who cannot afford to pay your school fees in any way. But you have my blessings. You can start if your headmistress indeed will take care of your school fees. So
but unbeknownst to him, you had already done a deal where you were financing your own education.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So
Yes.
then you finished the primary school.
So I finished the primary school, and my teacher, Mr. Andrews, used to call me the educational criminal in course, because every student will pass through the door, and I will pass through the window. This was how he explained it. Primary 1, when we were to go to primary 2, I was promoted to primary 3 because I was very ambitious and I was doing well. So I used to say 4 years to complete primary school and 2 years to complete junior high school.
Wow.
And then I proceeded to Ghana Secondary School, Ghana School in Tamale. And I managed to also pass my exams and proceeded to University for Development Studies, where I did development studies, and in our final year, I moved into planning department. But then, immediately after I completed my senior high school, whilst we were waiting for our results, I heard about Shekinah Clinic, where my late husband was doing very well with the work. And in fact, if not for good people, I don't think it would have been easy for me to have completed successfully. My primary school teachers, Madam Lizzie, Madam Rose, and co, they used to support me sometimes with school books or uniform. And so when I was in my final year in the senior high school, there was this Shekinah Fund, educational fund support that they all used to help brilliant but needy students. Myself, we had one American lady, Dr. Suzanne Helen. We called her Zosamlina, the chief of friendship. She came to Tamale to sponsor brilliant but needy students. So I was fortunate to have been chosen. So she paid for my school fees from senior high school till I completed.
Wow.
And then something unfortunate happened. I went into a wrong course. I'll put it roughly like that. I did science because I was doing very well. And I felt, well, I wanted to become a medical doctor in future. And so I thought, well, let me go and do science. And when I went there, the teachers, we didn't have enough science teachers. I didn't even have their books. And you can imagine in my senior high school, I was in the boarding house, and we're not allowed to move out of campus during weekends. those listening to me, I'm not encouraging people to do this, but I was
This
compelled.
is your story.
Yes, I was
compelled
compelled to do some things outside the normal line. At weekends, I will dodge school and then go to the market to still sell tomatoes because I needed to do that to be able to get some money to buy soap and to buy some few things that I could use to support myself. So I did all these things and I managed to complete school without so much difficulty. But at the same time, you know, they used to organize extra classes where you pay and they will teach you chemistry, physics, biology, and all that. And we didn't have enough teachers for that. Even if we had, they were not really giving their best to us for those who had the money and they could go and register with the private tuition. So, and when I wrote my final exams, I didn't get all my papers. So after completing the school, whilst we were waiting for our results, I decided that I would also like to render my service to Shekinah Clinic for the poor because all the workers there were volunteers. I went and spoke to my late husband, whom I didn't even know what the future had in store for me. And he said, no, people working there were all volunteers. He couldn't afford to pay them. And I was very young. And, you know, he mentioned to me, how are you going to meet your day-to-day, you know, your hairdo or your lamapote roughly, that kind of thing. And I couldn't afford to give you that. So he gave me all kind of discouragement not to work there. And I said to him that from my background, I would like to do what you are doing because I also have a passion for that. So give me the chance to serve the poor. So he accepted me. And then I started work there. So when our results came out, I didn't get all my subjects. Some were weak passes. I got all the core, but the electives were weak passes. And I failed elective maths and chemistry. And I didn't lose hope. I just said to myself that I will still do that. I will still make it. So what did I do? I started, whenever there was this community voluntary activities with Action Aid or Ministry of Health, I will volunteer. And they will usually give you TNT. So I used to save that money. And then I managed to register private exams. So whilst I was helping in the clinic, nobody knew I was having the interest of writing my
remedial exam.
Yes.
Wow.
So I decided to move out completely from the science subjects and register the arts courses because I saw that those were just reading subjects, and if you were determined, you would be able to make it. So I registered those courses, and I never went for any extra classes. I just did my reading, my own studies, and wrote the exams. And by the grace of God, I got all my marks. I passed well, and I applied for UDS, Legon, and UST, and I got admission to Legon and UDS. And I found that I realized that UDS was in the north.
Right at home for you.
Yeah, so it was going to be much more cheaper and easier for me than in the south. So I moved on to
You seem to have the knack of figuring your way out in spite of whatever difficulties were ahead of you. Where do you pick that from?
Well, I think it's all about determination and knowing what you want. I think that right from childhood, even my mom used to tell me I was very ambitious. And anytime I feel I want to do something, I concentrate on that. And I usually would not bother how others think or feel about what I'm going to do. Once I'm convinced about it, I go ahead with that. So right from my childhood, I knew already what I wanted.
You know, typically when something good happens to one person in a community, it has a ripple effect on the community.
Yes.
How has your own achievements, being able to pay your way through primary school and essentially just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and educate yourself, how has that affected the wider community in which you grew up?
Thank you. Not to exaggerate or praise myself, but I would like to say that it has given a lot of encouragement to the people in my community. I was the first graduate in the area or the community I came from, especially as a woman. So most of the parents who didn't allow their children to go to school found that. And you know, as I said, I was very determined. We used to go for quiz competitions and other things. And they would even take me to the local radio station, like Radio Savannah, and they would do some interview. It happened that one time there was this Best Teachers Award, we went to Bolgatanga, the 3 northern regions, for a competition. And I happened to be first in that competition, and I was given an award on that day in my very community, the primary school I attended. So it made the people very proud and happy, and they found that, oh, so people started using me as an example. And I kind of, let me put it roughly, humbled myself in such a way that I didn't do things that would have discouraged other parents from allowing their children to go to school. Like I said, I was already grown when I went to school. But I didn't have time for something like boyfriend, girlfriend kind of you know, thing. Even in the school, in the senior high school, I could still remember my friends calling me. I had a very big chalk box, you know, the box they will make. And we used to have problems with water. Ghana school is noted for having water problems. So I had these Frytol containers. It used to be some white gallons like that.
Okay, so that was the,
so
I think it had like 3.5 liter white gallon. Yes.
So I would fill all that with water and just put it in the top box and lock, because I didn't have anything like sardine or milk or whatever.
But your water
I
was
had
there.
my simple gari. And sometimes when I escape to the market, I pick fresh tomatoes, and I'll manage to buy this groundnut oil, a half bottle or quarter, whatever that I could afford, come and put it. And we had this we call kulkulism, KKZ. It's groundnuts they used to make the powder. Okay. So it was all that I had in my chop box. But I was very happy with it. You know, I will put it there, and then my colleagues, when you leave your water on the floor, they will steal the water. So in order not to allow them, I just put it in my big chop box and lock it. And they nicknamed me Water Chop Box, but I didn't bother.
But at least you knew exactly what you wanted to do.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Well, it's very, very riveting story.
Yes, and you know, men will come your way. They will tell you that, oh, if you allow me to befriend you, I would give you. They will buy take away. You know, if you are from a poor home, they do kind of things that will simply, you know,
mess with your mind and blow your eyes.
So I didn't allow that. And at a point in time, I could even hear my colleagues telling me that I was possessed by a jinn, because, and some even said I didn't have any feeling because I didn't allow any man into my life. And my reason was I didn't want somebody to tamper with my future, because I was already, let me put it roughly, matured enough. And there was no way that you will mess up with a man and your education would be able to go on. So I was afraid that I will not be able to achieve my goal. So I didn't pick any.
You kept your focus.
Yes.
And your promise to your dad.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they were very pleased and proud.
I'm quite curious to learn about life in the university. What was it like? And what kind of lessons would you say you picked from the years in the university?
It was fun. I'll put it roughly that way. Our year group, we were termed as the Chinese population.
Okay.
Because we were over 1,000, about 1,500 students.
In that intake?
In that intake.
Wow.
And we used to use a small hall. It was a borrowed structure, was school for the deaf.
Okay.
The UDS had borrowed that hall, and we will all go in there for lectures. Imagine you go and they'll be teaching you statistics or something, and you only be behind the window listening to the lecturer. You don't even see what he's putting on the notice board. But then it took a real, you know, let me put it roughly, hard-working chap to be able to get your marks well, because you wake up very early in the morning and go to school, and you still not find a seat. But for me, I would say that I remain grateful to these friends. I was blessed that almost everybody liked me there. I don't know for what reason, but I would say it's maybe is a blessing from God. So sometimes when I get in there, some people will just get up and ask me to sit there, the men especially. So I happen to have been given the chances to have the chance to be inside to listen to the lecturer and once in a while outside the class, and I managed to pass my exams. It was in my second year that my late husband proposed to me. You know, I'm not the first wife of him. He had a first wife before, but they got divorced. And I will tell you later about his life. But the thing is, the kind of work he was doing was very tedious and still is as we go on with it. Anyway, I volunteered there and left for school. And when his marriage didn't work out well for him, there was also pressure on him, like you have to marry and this kind of thing. He was a very reserved kind of person, disciplined and kind of, you know. So he was like, okay, there was this girl who was working with us in the clinic. She was humble, she was hardworking, and there was a an age gap between me and my late. So anyway, in my second year, God made it in his own wonderful way that I became his wife, and I got pregnant in my second year, gave birth to my first child. I had 2 children from the university.
Wow. And
I still managed to qualify to get my, I didn't get the first class though, I got a second class with my 2 children. I graduated with 2 children plus my certificate. But what I want to say is, all it takes a man to do in a field like this is about determination and discipline. It was not easy, as I'm talking as if I was just walking like that. It wasn't like that. A lot of challenges came my way. But I just focused and I looked up to God and I concentrated.
Let me just ask you as we wrap up and go for a short break. Can you recount one time, one incident, anything that made you feel that at this point, I can't go on anymore, but you still managed to get past that?
Yes. There were such instances, not even one instance.
Wow.
That I felt the going was so tough and I felt maybe I just have to quit. But in the end,
give me an example of one of those instances.
I tell you about in our first year at the university. As I told you, the distance was very great. And the house I was living in was in a very simple, small room. We didn't even have a bathroom in that house. For you to go and clean yourself, you had to squat as a lady. If you stand up, any man outside would see you. And even the food to eat was a problem. There were many instances where I felt, you know, why am I here? Why do I really just push myself into something like this? And I could remember one day I told myself that, what about my sisters and brothers at home who haven't been to school? What will happen if I also don't? And one way or the other, I will get a kind of motivation, and then I will say, okay, I am already here. Why not just continue or finish it up? The other instance was when I first went to the school. My friends were teasing me. They used to say, P1 mommy. And they would say all kind of funny things. And then you feel like, oh, maybe I should really go away. I'm not fit to be there. And as some in my class where I was, most of them were very small. And I was a grown, I was like a mother. And if we take a group picture, you will see that it's like a mother with her children. So sometimes I'm like, what is happening? What am I doing with myself?
This was in the primary level?
Yes, this was in the primary level. And the university, as I said, was about the hardships, let me put it roughly, how to finance yourself, how to get this and that.
But you didn't compromise your values?
No.
And you stuck to it?
No, there were so many instances where a lot of temptations came my way, but I stood to my ground and I said no to everything.
Wow. Impressive story. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to learn more about Mariama's journey and what she's doing with the Shekinah Clinic for the Poor and Destitute in the Northern Region. Stay tuned to the Executive Lounge. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge. I'm Inshira Ado, and my guest is Mariama Abdulai David, and she's the Executive Director for the Shekinah Clinic for the Poor and Destitute in the Northern Region, where they feed the poor and destitute 3 times a day, and they give them medical help throughout. And interesting that you started your whole journey with Shekinah started as a volunteer while you were in your senior high school days. Yeah. And of course in the university, you're the founder, you know, your late husband then proposed and got married to you. Yeah. When you started working with him as a wife and his help, did you see a marked difference in the same place that you once volunteered? What was the difference? Was there any difference at all?
Yes, a lot of differences were made or created, but the whole value still stood same. He was a very disciplined man and a man of his words. He walked his talk, and whatever he was doing, he didn't do it to please man or whatever. So as I was telling you earlier on, I said he could figure out that this was a lady who seemed to have the same values or the same ideas to whom I could walk comfortably and conveniently with. And that was how he came to me and we got married. And I will say it, and then I believe wherever he is today, he is nodding his head to say that he didn't make a mistake by marrying me. And I also did not regret and still did not say, I cannot say that I regretted for having married him. I said to some people who came to interview me in the clinic that in my 1,000 lives, if they give birth to me and they ask if I want to marry him, I will say yes.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
But the thing is, it is very challenging to have gotten married to a man of that nature, very selfless. And the kind of work he does is very involving. He almost would not have time for you as a wife or children. But if you happen to understand the path in which he was walking, you will call it a blessing for your own self. And for me, because I understood what he was doing and I loved it, it was easy for us. Whatever that he was doing, I was with him. In the theater, in the consulting room, any activity around. Because this, I realized that for you to fall back and watch till he finishes with his work to come back to you, you almost will not get it.
Because he was always working.
He was always working. I will put it off, it was like a workaholic. He didn't have free days or free times. He did it as and when he was needed. And it almost always, there were people on him, the mad people, the poor people, either operations or personal issues here and there. So I found that in order to really have quality time with him, be with him wherever he is. And he loved that. He didn't say, I don't want you to be where I am. And, you know, sometimes some people don't want to be with their wives or husband because maybe sometimes they have something to hide or they don't want them to really know what is happening in their lives. But he was not that kind of person. So anywhere he was, he wanted me there, and I was willing to be there. And because of that, we managed to improve some of the things that was going on in the clinic, especially in the feeding program. Because I came out with a menu where we knew exactly each day what food we'll cook for the people. We cook for mad people, but we don't just cook anyhow food because they are mad people. We do it because we all eat the same food with them. So we try to do our best and then to give them quality meal. We kind of make a menu and where at least 2 times a week they will eat meat and fish and other
So you made sure that the food was nutritious.
Yes, yes.
For all these, variety of people who were homeless, people who were mentally challenged, and living rough.
Yes.
And did they come to you, or did you go out and bring them to the clinic?
Some of them come at their own free will. They just walk in for treatment. Sometimes after that, they say they don't want to go back. Some of them do have their family members in town, but they decided after work, after treatment or whatever, they will say they don't want to go back to their family because of the love they found in the clinic there. Others are there because, we usually will cook their food, put in a pickup, and move to the streets of Tamale and feed them. So sometimes we find that somebody is lying on the street sick. Then we take the person to the clinic, treat the person, after which, if he or she want to stay, because we have enough rooms, we just give the person a shelter, and then we continue to feed them.
And all of this was done out of Doc's pocket and donations. Has that changed?
Nothing has changed by the grace of God.
And so you still fund the operations of Shekinah Clinic with donations?
Yes. And the interesting thing about it is even that we say we depend absolutely and unconditionally on divine providence. Whatever God brings to us through kind people is what we rely on. And the work was started in the year 1991. Until date, by the grace of God, we haven't had an instance where we said today we don't know what to do. Different individuals come with their donations, either in cash or in kind or food item in various ways.
So there's every day there's some...
Yes, yes.
What does Shekinah mean?
God's presence, the presence of God.
Wow.
When Moses was asked to send the people to the promised land, there was this disturbances and a kind of cloud appeared. And that cloud was called Shekinah. That's a Hebrew word. And the meaning is the presence of God.
Wow. That's quite interesting. I guess it's a very aptly chosen name because, since 1991, like you say, there's never been a day where you didn't have the providence that you needed to provide for other people. But let's explore the organization. How would you say the formal education you received and going on to the university to study planning and developmental studies, how has that impacted on the way the clinic is run today?
It has made a lot of impact in the clinic in a sense that I acquired some knowledge that is helping me very much in here. For instance, I would say in the area of confidence, in the area of perseverance. I just mentioned to you that in our year group where they call the Chinese population, we went through a lot of hardships. So, and the development studies touches a lot of areas. It teaches you, community participatory planning, a lot of other areas. And because with even psychology, I would say every area, it will touch more of that. And then you will now concentrate on what you think in future we want to do. And I think that this has helped me so much because in our first year, second year, UDS have something we call third trimester program. They will let you move into communities where it is in a very remote area and you really put yourself in the shoes of the people and get some experience with them. So for me with this, when I experience all this kind of activities or ideas, I implemented it in the place where I am working now. To handle these people that we are dealing with, you have to have to be extremely patient. You have to know what you want and where you are going. Imagine that you want to help somebody and you have to plead with the person before you help the person. And sometimes you receive all kinds of discouraging words from people that will really scare you or deter you from what you are doing. So you just have to, let me say, be determined and focused. You don't really have to turn and look at. It's just like someone said that when you are traveling in a journey, you don't have to turn and have a look at any barking dog, because when you do it, you will never reach your destination. So the work we are doing, my late was called the Mad Doctor.
Yeah, his nickname, yeah.
The Mad Doctor. It isn't that he was mad, because he managed to turn the impossible possible. And he did all kinds of things that people thought were odd, but that he felt would help humanity. He didn't care, you know, whichever way people will look at him. And that was how he managed to come that far. And for you to be able to serve or to do this kind of work, you must be someone who is daring and someone who knows God. Let me put it roughly like that. Why do I say so? If you don't know God and you want to do this kind of work, you fail. Because it's a call. It is not just a profession where you say, because I have acquired this knowledge, I'm coming to do this work. If you are not called to do it, forget it. You cannot do that. Because you have to have the passion. You have to love what you are doing. The people themselves we deal with, they have some feeling. They can feel the aura around you. There are some of them, as when we are getting close to them, they will scare, they will not want you to get close to them. And some of us, as soon as they see you, whatever they are doing, they want to run to you. Why? It is because of the aura around you. And those who are listening to this, who may be listening to this program and have even had the chance to visit the clinic can testify or bear witness to me that the way the mental ill or the destitutes used to relate to my late is not different at all on how they relate to me.
Wow. Because
they feel the love I have for them. And they could feel his love. Somebody will come with his family member very wild. They cannot even control that. But as soon as the person looks at you, you start to talk to the person, the person becomes normal, and you start to chat, and they will even refuse to go back home. It is just a feeling. So I will not even say that it's about an education or the study you have. It is about the feeling inside you and what you really feel you want to do. And there's a lot of fulfillment in doing something like this. These people have a lot of gifts that they keep to themselves. And until you get close to them, you'll never get that. I will say something, they have a sense of appreciation. We, those who call ourselves normal, don't usually have it. And they are also very good at sharing. Whatever little thing they get, they try to let the others have it. But you and I, who call ourselves normal, always want more for ourselves. And when we go around to give them food or any item, they will say, thank you very much. God bless you. Every single day and every time.
Wow.
Yes. And you know, there was this instance, I would like to share it so that people can benefit from that. The year my late passed on, where, you know, we have an annual Christmas party where we feed an average of about 3,000 poor people. 2018, for instance, we fed about 3,600 poor. And that year, he told us that even if he died, because the situation he was in as a medical doctor, he knew he was not going to survive it. So he told us that no matter the situation, after his death, we should still manage to make the party for the poor, because this is the year or the day they look very forward to. So for him, to make him rest in peace will mean that we should prepare the party for them if we have the means. So anyway, we managed to prepare, to organize ourselves. He died in 2nd October. And imagine the gap.
So you had December, a funeral to plan, and then you had barely 2 months to go.
Yes. So we're preparing for Christmas, and every year I do the activities with him and the volunteer staff. So at a point in time, I got very emotional because there were activities that I was doing on my own, and I needed his advice in one way or the other, or just to talk to someone like him. I couldn't. So I was getting emotional, and one of my friends suggested to me that why not go to the clinic and just visit his place, prayed, and then come back. So we went. We said some prayers, and I came back, and I was sitting alone whilst they were standing and conversing. And one of the mental ill women, Mabamuno, we call her, walked to me. And she said to me that, my dear, I can see that you are confused, you are emotionally affected, and you are thinking a lot about what will happen to you and your children. But don't worry. Your husband has planted enough seeds for you to harvest, and your generations yet unborn to come and meet. Look at all of us. Are we not a blessing for you? Because he had made me in person what I am today. When I came here, I walked in naked, and I used to use pieces to paint the walls. Your husband managed to turn me into a normal person again. And you think your husband will not rest in peace? Your husband is blessed. He's happy where he is. And you, the one he has left behind and have entrusted us into your hands, don't worry. God will take care of you and us. So be courageous.
Wow.
The woman spoke to me in such a way that for me it was like an angel that came to talk to me. And this was someone we considered a mental ill person. And I have a lot of such stories to share with you about these people.
Wow.
Of course, as I said, sometimes they can really be annoying, you know, the way they do things. But because we understand them, when they are in such states, you just exercise patience and you calm yourself and listen to whatever they want. And the situation will go well again.
Well, we're going to take our final break, and I'd like to talk to you about the future of Shekinah. I'm sure you're a mild-mannered person, but you're very excitable and joyous when you talk about your work. And it's just a demonstration of the passion. But I'm sure you've got some great plans for the future, and we'll like to learn about that as well. Don't go away. We'll be back after this break. This is still the Executive Lounge. Welcome back. This is the Executive Lounge. I'm in Shirado, and my guest is Mariama Abdulai David, and she's the Executive Director of the Shekinah Clinic for the Poor and Destitute in the Northern region. In fact, in Tamale, to be precise. Mariama, you clearly are passionate about what you do.
Definitely.
And to whom much is given, much is expected.
Much is expected.
I'm sure you do have plans of expansion of some sort. Just give me a sneak peek into the future you've painted in your mind.
Thank you very much. As part of our future plans, we currently have a school we call David Abdulai Memorial School. We name it after him. You see, he and me, you seem to have the same background. He was put in school by different people here and there. He got his support from that. And as I earlier on gave you my background about my education. So together with him, when he was alive, we planned that we will try to make a school in the future. And as there's this Chinese saying that teach a man how to fish and not how to eat fish. And he used to also say that catch them young and they will be yours forever. I mentioned earlier on that we used to have educational fund support where the clinic was supporting brilliant but needy students. But most of them will graduate and they don't seem to want to give back to their society what they have gotten. So he said there was a need for us to establish the school so that people like us will be put there. Those who have a humble backgrounds will be put in the school. And then maybe when we start to teach them how to become passionate to your people and that kind of thing, at least when they grow up, out of 10, you always get one person from that. So if you want, let me say it roughly, that our school is going to be somewhat radical in terms of our ideas that we're going to input in the students. So it is yet undeveloping. We are just with primary, we are with crèche, nursery, and primary, and hopefully September we will admit more students into that.
So you started the
school? We've started. It's small for now, but we hope to go up in the future as well. And our feeding program, that we didn't have a kitchen for the place. Now we have that. And it is still my hope that we will manage to, because the manner in which we cook is still very energy consuming and labor, I mean, let me put it.
Intensive.
Yeah, so we are trying to see if we will be able to kind of input something that will have
mechanize some of the processes.
Yes, the processes. And then we, by the grace of God, in the year 2021, we'll be celebrating our 30th anniversary. And as part of it, we would like to, some of the rooms are in a real bad shape. We want to try to see if we can renovate them, paint, and do some other things that will really help. And most of our equipment also in the theater, and even the OPD is, of course, donations came from usually in outside the country. But lately, I must say that Ghanaians are also beginning to realize or recognize what we are doing. And in between, we get some few donations here and there from kind-hearted people from Ghana. So we really are trying to see what we can replace or fix. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of broken items.
You know, you mentioned the OPD. It just struck me that your late husband was a medical doctor.
Yes.
And so he was manning the clinic.
Yes.
You're not a medical doctor, even though you wished you were one, right? You wanted to be a medical doctor at some point. So how do you fill that void today?
God has really been good to us, I must say. We have different individuals who come in between to help. Currently, we have one, Dr. Bill Tenner. He's half Ghanaian, half English, who is a retired doctor. And he has, when my late was sick in the 37 hospital, he rang me up and told me that no matter how his condition was going to end, he was going to come and join us run the system. And he's been with us since 2016 till date. He does the day-to-day consultation. And we used to have two nurses who was also doing the consultations, and they are still with us. And in between, we get doctors who come to do operations. We have constantly one Captain Latif who comes twice a day, a week to operate. Then Dr. Al-Hassan, there are a number of them who comes in between to do the operations. So the operations, the OPD is still ongoing. And for me, it just brings me back to what he told me in his sick bed. It was a big debate between us when he said, Mariama, I know I'm going to go and I'm going to entrust the clinic into your hands. And I was like, well, you know I am capable, but in our society, women are not recognized, they are not respected. They will simply say, a woman, what can a woman do, this small girl and that. He said to me that, look, you are not capable of doing that work. Only God is, and God will lead you to do it. Even myself, God was using me as an instrument. I, on my own, could not have done the work I did till I am going. So put your trust in God and see what God is going to do to you. Just concentrate. Then he said to me that because our people listen more to men than women, or they respect women, so he brought into the picture his uncle, he's quite old now, Adam Kalim, to say that I have full trust in my wife, but you as a man should just stand there to give her the support, the needed support. My wife by nature is a survivor, and I know whatever I'm going to entrust into her hands, she will do the right thing. But disturbances from the society may distract her. So just be there. Whenever there's a tension or a problem, then you can give her the support. And he did.
How has society accepted you?
Well, in the beginning, it was difficult. They threatened me. They did all kinds of things to discourage me. And like I said earlier, you just need to know what you want and where you are going. You have to be daring. You don't listen, you don't have to listen to people. For instance, the way I started school alone was enough to demonstrate to the world that she knows what she's about, she can do it. But they still wanted to try me, to test to see whether I know what I was about. So they put pressure. They said, this small girl, as I'm talking now, some people said, that stubborn girl. But when they come in with ideas that will distract the plan, and you say no to it, then they say you are stubborn. But it doesn't matter. All that we need to do is to think about our conscience, what God wants from us, and ask ourselves whether we are doing the right thing or not. For lies, it only disturbs the truth, but the truth will always triumphant, no matter what. The beginning was very difficult. A lot of lies were told on me, so many forces, kind of things were said, but I remained focused. At a point in time, there were different people who came in and were given their own stories that my late asked them to take charge of their clinic, and they were intending to make money out of it because they wanted to be charging. But I waited. I made them to come out with all their stories. He put it into writing. So one day we called a general meeting, and it was read to everyone, and they got to know their places. But what did they do? Some of them went behind, and they were manipulating people to scare, to distract me. And I'm from the north. Northerners who are listening to this program will bear me witnesses. They use all kind of, let me put it roughly, juju, to scare me. Sometimes I will come to the clinic, and I will find some funny substance in front of my office or at the entrance. Then what I simply say to myself is, these people have given their souls to Satan. Mine is with God, and nobody can defeat God. In any case, in Dagbane, we have something we call kare. That you should have a saying, when you have a blessing of someone in where you are, don't have fears. And for me, I believe right from day one till day that I have the blessing of my husband, who encouraged me and told me that I will be with you in spirit. Even though I'm going to go with my body, my spirit and soul will be with you. And as I'm talking now, I believe he's even with me now, because I feel his presence wherever I go, whatever I do. Sometimes I ask myself, like, how, because the situation will be so challenging and difficult that, and before I realize I am out of that situation. And the question I will ask is like, how did I manage to come out from it? The answer is, he told me to look up to God. And for God, nothing is impossible. And I quote him, he said to me, Mariama, don't look at your size. Even God can use a mosquito to do his work for him. And I also have to pay a price for my structure, because sometimes people think she's that small. Even though I am still young, but some people give my age and it's like I'm just in my 20s or 30s in that way. That's it. But it's okay. I enjoy it sometimes.
Fantastic. Mariama, thank you so much. This is a very moving conversation, and I'm sure that things would be better for Shekinah. Your passion is very, very evident. And I promise you, I'll come and visit.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
It will be wonderful.
Okay. And this is where we end this conversation. And for me, here are my 5 things I'm taking away from this.
Okay.
That restlessness is good. That you should have ambition. Never be at peace with yourself until you've lived your full potential. Mariama decided she wanted to go to school. At age 14, she found a way to finance her way through primary school, all the way to university. Number 2 for me is that the things you choose to do must be driven by your compassion and passion. Now, without compassion for mankind, you will not be able to serve. And deep down, when you do demonstrate the empathy required to serve mankind, they in turn will feel it, and then gratitude follows, which comes with all the blessings. Number 3 is passion. Now, passion is the fire in the oven that makes everything come together. Without passion, you will not be able to do a job as difficult as Mariama is saying. It all sounds beautiful and nice, but she has said, sometimes is very difficult. It's only passion to see change and transformation that can keep any one person doing what she does at the clinic. The fourth thing for me is spirituality. Somebody once told me that we're all spirit beings. We just happen to be passing through this place. And if indeed you believe that God created us in His image, then our true image is that of spirit, because God is a spirit. And connection to that source is important if you're going to survive in any sphere of life. And that anchor is what has kept Mariama going. So it's important that you connect spiritually to the source of your being. My final takeaway from this is that no matter how difficult it gets, remember that the beginning was not easy as well. But you've gone past that. You're still on a journey. And even though it's difficult at this point, it was at the beginning as well. But you did make some progress, which means that for every level, you will have a devil to deal with. But it won't be the end. Thank you once again, Mariama.
Thank you very much.
And this is where we end the show. Thank you for watching, and thanks for our friends at Villa Monticello, and to the crew, and my producer, and especially for you, to you for watching. We'll be back again next week with more of the Executive Lounge, where we bring you the best minds. I'm Inshira Ado, and as always, go forward, make rain. Shalom.